Yes, so it has started the recording. Okay, perfect. So to give you a quick background, TalenTeam, as I said, we've been around for about 5 years. We are seen to be one of the most experienced organizations when it comes to SuccessFactors learning. We do other modules as well, but learning is really where the biggest strength lies. We are also an SAP recognized expertise, certified as SAP recognized expertise, which means that SAP have that happens via client references back to SAP, where SAP do a very detailed, in a interview with the customer, and then that accreditation is given out. I think from a team perspective, overall we've got about over 70 years experience with the systems. So combined in all, and also we've been working with a wide range of organizations. The smallest organization being about 300 users, not 1,200. I think we've done another one since then, but about 300 users to about 300 plus users, 300,000 plus users, which was HSBC, and also also accredited for the partner quality program, which is where SAP review the implementation processes and methodology and the documentation that we maintain to certify on that aspect as well. Okay, again, from an as a solution integrator, we essentially provide quite a comprehensive service, so not just the implementations, it's around implementations, integrations, and even beyond go live as well. We offer support contracts, which can essentially provide, it's a complementary support to what SAP provide. So it's more of a functional how to release reviews and adoption of new features, etc., is where we really focus. Optimization services, essentially, I think from time to time, or we do an annual audit for a lot of our customers, where we look at the product roadmap, the customer's roadmap in terms of where their learning organization is heading towards. E-learning content support as well, because essentially between the LMS and then your content providers, sometimes there's a a gap where I think you need someone to be able to talk to the both of them, who understands the LMS and understands the content, how content is meant to work. So we provide that sort of a support as well, along with strategy and training. Additionally, in terms of we also do HANA Cloud development. So essentially, I don't know if you've come across that, but that's an extension, an extensibility platform in case there are any sort of extensions required to the standard processes within SuccessFactors, and again to do with custom reports or gamification integrations, etc. as well. As I said, I think this is just to give you an overview of the company, just so that you're aware of what we're able to do and how we can support. Here's a selection of our, yeah, sorry Liam, you had a question?
No, it's just saying okay.
Okay. So just a selection of our LMS customers, as in, again, I think when we look at this, you can see quite a few recognizable names, and essentially we've got case studies. Sorry about this. So we've got case studies with a lot of them. Most of these customers are referenceable, and when I say most, it's only because essentially some of these implementations may have been a few years ago, and there's been, I guess, the customer's pretty self-sufficient, so we've not really had to engage with them, and people move on obviously over years as well. But each one of these is a success story. So, and I think if you need to have a chat with any of them as well, happy to get that organized at a later point.
Okay.
All right, and again, I think before we get into the demo, comments from some testimonials from our customers. I'm quite fond of the first one. SuccessFactors was a piano you would not. But yeah, so we'll be sending across these slides across after the meeting anyway, so you can again read these at your leisure. I didn't want to take away too much time from Alice from the actual demonstration, which is the main purpose. So I will now pass it on to Alice, if that's okay. Just before we do that, does anyone have any questions about what I've just gone through? Anything you want to know further before I pass it on?
I suppose I've got a question, but it's probably for Liam. So are SuccessFactors on HANA? I don't think it is it?
No, it's not. you don't kind of have it on HANA like that.
Right. Okay.
HANA would be what the other areas of SAP would be moving to.
Right. Okay. So that would be the other SAP cloud, if you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Although it's SuccessFactors on HANA, SuccessFactors itself is on HANA, isn't it? But not our own customer. Hello?
Is that a question for Frank?
Yeah.
Or?
Sandeep,
Sorry,
can you answer that one? So yeah,
Sorry,
so
can you repeat that question?
SuccessFactors itself is on HANA, isn't it? But it's not like our own version. It's our own customer part of it. It's just that it's run on HANA.
So essentially, HANA, I guess HANA is a very widely used term, and essentially there are three different aspects of HANA. There's a HANA in-memory database, and parts of the SuccessFactors application are already on HANA. Not every customer has been moved to the HANA-based database as yet. So it currently operates on both the legacy relational databases as well as the HANA database. What we were talking about there is the HANA Cloud Platform, which has actually recently been renamed to SAP Cloud Platform, so SAP Cloud Platform, which is more of a development platform to be able to develop extensions, or add-ons to the existing products, whether it's on-premise products or the SuccessFactors products. So being able to integrate by building extensions or add-ons to the product. And then there's a HANA Cloud Integration Platform, which is more of an integration middleware. So HANA is a very broad term, essentially kind of used across multiple places. And I think because of the confusion it was causing, SAP recently renamed it to SAP Cloud Platform, at least on one area.
Okay.
Hopefully that answers it.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. If there's no further questions, I will pass this on to Alice, who will take us through the demonstration.
Lovely. Let's see if I can do share my screen. So let me know that you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see.
Lovely. Okay, so please do stop me with questions. I know you're bound to have some, so that's absolutely fine. Just stop it and we can have a discussion about what you're seeing on the screen and what I'm talking about. Otherwise, I'll just sort of power on and try and show you as much as I can within the limited time we've got. Because I can normally waffle on for probably a couple of days about this. But hopefully I'll be able to give you a good overview and you have a sort of understanding of what it can do and how it might fit in with you guys and what you need. Obviously we had a little call here recently, so I've got a little idea of the sort of areas of challenges that you've got, and hopefully I'll be able to patch those up with this demo. So what we're looking at here is the learning landing page. So really what I've done, I've literally just moved into the learning area from a drop down. Now this drop down is quite big. It's got all the modules. Obviously it's a demo system, but you would probably recognize it having maybe goals or performance. So learning would just be another option on this this drop down. So your users would really simply just click there and they will be taken into their learning specific landing page, which we're looking at. Quick word about the branding. Obviously, if you've got a branding already, then learning will just adopt that. It will just be extended to the learning area as well, so it will feel like a perfectly natural part of your overall system. I've just put something together just to give you an idea of basically how easy it's done. Branding's really simple to do. Don't need any coding or anything like that. It's a drop-down selection. Select your image and just create your brand. And you can have different brandings if you've got departments or organizations within your company that maybe look different. Then you could actually have separate brandings depending on the organization. So it's mapped to different organizations in the system. So that's all I'm going to say about branding. I'm going to go into what we're actually here to see, which is the actual learning piece. So it's all about the user experience here. It's to present something really nice, simple. It makes sort of sense why things are there. I'm going to go through what all of these little tiles are. You don't have to have all of these tiles. You can have more or less. You can create your own. So this is just a sample of what a generic normal LMS would look like. We've got so this user that I'm using, Mark, he has a few hats that he's wearing in his organization. So he's He's got My Learning here, which is his own learning, his personal employee learning space. He's got My Employees because he's also a manager. So from the HR feed, there's information coming through to the learning management system to say that he's got reports, he's a manager. So therefore, the role has been created for him to include a manager view of things. And I will pop in there later to show you what that looks like. And he's also an instructor. So he's actually somebody who also gives classes. He instructs face-to-face or virtual learning. So he's got a whole area there that's dedicated for that kind of role. Again, it's been added to his role so he can have this My Classes. And I will show you what that looks like as well and what it's for. So that's just his 3 roles, you could say, his employee, his manager role, and his instructor role represented like that. You can add more pages like this if you've got maybe something product specific, or you could collect your own tiles and content into more of these should you choose. The biggest tile on the screen obviously being his learning assignments. So this is Mark's own to-do list, if you like, of different kinds of learning that he for a number of reasons needs to be doing. So it can be because it's sent to him, assigned to him by learning teams, sort of from upstairs, if you like, or it can be things that he's selected to assign to himself out from a catalogue, which I'll show you as well, that he wants to learn. So it's his own initiative. And I know that on the call that we had, it was mentioned that, you know, it's something that you're kind of looking to do to try and encourage people to actually go in and sort of volunteer for learning rather than it always coming from above and being sort of forced on them. So we're going to pop into the catalogue in just a moment and have a look at what's in there and what it looks like. We've also got a custom tile. So this is something that I've just put together. You can create these as you go along it's your creativity to say what it can contain. I've just put some sort of, you know, if you do this course, that's obviously behind, if you click on the start button, then you might be in with a chance to win some tickets. So it's a bit of a carrot way of approaching learning as well. Obviously, the admin behind this campaign, if you like, could run a report to see, you know, by the end of the month, who's done this learning, and they could then obviously have a bit of a prize draw, if you like. So it's just a creative, fun way to actually approach learning, which you might not have done before. But it could, of course, be anything on this tile, like maybe you want some news to come out to your users, and you could put absolutely anything in there. So let's look at the learning. So there's different types of learning. You are familiar with face-to-face learning, of course. It happens in a classroom of some sort. I think you're familiar with your e-learning as well. I know you mentioned you've got SCORM content, which maybe is not utilized to its best at the moment. But basically that will be another type of learning in here. So it's your e-learning online courses. There's a number of other ways as well. You can have to-do lists, for example, observational learning. So if I just scroll down on the page a little bit to show you. So for example, you can have a checklist type. So you've got somebody actually observing someone else doing a number of tasks and then can pass or fail them. So we'll pop in and look at what that looks like as well. So there's a number of different types of learning, and for you to use depending on what makes most sense for the topic at hand. So e-learning maybe sometimes is the best way forward, sometimes it needs to be face-to-face, or sometimes it needs to be a virtual face-to-face, I suppose. So the system allows you to...
One of the things, if I could just interrupt, one of the things we've always dreamt of having, shall we say, is the ability to assign learning to a particular role rather than a particular employee, and have that automate so that every time we add someone with a, you know, whatever role, they get assigned that learning automatically. Is that, you know, how do we create the groups that get enrolled, or you know, how do we push, what are the options about pushing learning out to people?
So let me fulfill your dreams then. Not every day I get to do that. So let's jump to why things are on this particular tile. So how come different objects of learning have ended up on this learning tile for Mark? So as a learning admin, you have something called assignment profiles. That's just what they're called. What it is basically a search. So you add criteria to a search to narrow down your population. So it can be, you know, everybody with this job code, everybody within this organization, everybody within, as long as there's a data field from the HR that you can use to narrow down your population, like everybody who is a manager, for example, you add those criteria until you've got your audience, and then you save that, you save it, and you say, okay, so apply this filter, and everybody who is in this audience, please automatically assign them this learning or a number of learning. So you build up a package of learning, or just the one item, doesn't really matter, and you basically activate that rule. So what happens, for example, with management training is that it obviously picks up everybody who is a manager in the system, and it will automatically assign them that management training that you've just sort of identified. What it also does is it will keep track of this. So it will check if you are still a manager or if somebody becomes a manager. So as soon as that new information comes in from the HR perspective, it will deal with it accordingly. So if you're a new manager, it will assign you the training. If you're no longer a manager, it will take it away from you, obviously saving the learning history still. That never goes away, of course. But basically, from a learning admin perspective, you just need to set this filter up and then press play, and it will do it automatically for you. And you can have as many as you like of these. So, for example, Mark here, he could have, leading in a global environment. The first object here, it's probably been assigned to him because he's a manager. So that's happened automatically. While something else, a new hire program, for example, can also have been very much assigned automatically through a filter that's been set up to say everybody whose hire date is less than 3 months old will have this assigned to them. So onboarding is another really good area to use these time and profile. So it's a really powerful tool to automate exactly what you're saying there with selecting your audience through some criteria and then just automating that assignment. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that sounds really good. That would save us a lot of time.
Are there any notifications that are linked to the system?
Yeah.
So, for example, say someone joins and obviously they're automatically assigned. Would they receive an email saying?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. No more manual sending of emails. So there's a number of standard emails that or notifications you can set up. Comes as standard as well. One is assignment, so hey, you've been assigned something, that's automatic. There's reminder emails, you've got a due date coming up on this course, you should really complete it by the the end of the month, and you can set it up to send that maybe 14 days before or 7 days before. You can choose the number of days you wanted to sort of warn, so it will chase people as well. It will tell them something's overdue. So there's loads and loads of notifications for all the different workflows to automatically push people and nudge them, if you like. So definitely yes, and you can design those. If you don't like the standard one, then it's quite easy and straightforward to word them yourself as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with the self-assigning of learning, because we'll come to compliance as well in just a moment, which is another big area, of course. Let's start with the self-learning, because again, from the call that we had, you kind of would like people to go in and sort of select their own learning and be a bit more proactive, so it's not always being pushed out by admins. So in fact, let me pop into the catalog tile here. So we've got a whole catalog. You can, if you know what it's called, you can you can search for it, and it will come up with your search criteria. But I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to pop into to just look at the catalog. So the catalog is, I mean, it's like any catalog anywhere on any page in the world. It should be very intuitive. People should know how to, navigate around a basic catalog of things. So it shouldn't be a shock to the system. What it will do, it will show you, so the admin can mark certain items as featured. It's literally a drop-down selection. Would you like to feature this new piece of learning maybe? And you can select until when, so it's a calendar picker. So in this case, this 2017 quiz has been featured, so hence it pops up at the top. Which there's only the one this time. If I had several here, it will sort of tick away. So it will show me this one for a few seconds and then the next one. So it's quite a nice visual thing to have. And if I scroll down, we'll come back to recommendations. But obviously, if something's been recommended to Mark, it will also pop up a bit sort of on the top to really push it up in his face a little bit to make it more visible because it's been recommended. And we'll come back to what that means. So it's a clean, nice, tile-based interface. It looks quite sort of neat and tidy. You've got next category is highly rated, so you can rate your courses. People can rate them, so you obviously get those on top because they've obviously been highly rated, sort of popular. And again, you've got the features sort of on its own down here as well. And you've got, if I scroll back up again, you can browse by topics. So if I open that one, so these are free text. So obviously in the demo system, there's all sorts in here. But these are something that you can create at implementation or later to just build up a tree of subject areas or topics. So you can link all your learning to one or more topics. So you could have, for example, human resources. And if I click here, then every item of learning that I, as an admin, have tagged with human resources will show up as a pre-filtered selection. So that's one way of doing it. Or you can free text search from here, or you can have a different view as well, a list view. So I can switch to a list view, which is just a different kind of view of the same stuff, really. So that's your catalogue. From an admin perspective, why is Mark seeing, these particular learning items? And because there might be a lot more. There might be, for example, things about finance, which would only apply to people in finance department, for example, which Mark is not a part of. And he wouldn't see that learning because, again, the admin would have set up to say, you know what, display the finance stuff only to people that have an association with a finance department. So Mark is not a part of that, and he wouldn't see that. So it's always filtered to be as relevant as possible. We don't want to be, unless you want to show everybody everything, which is perfectly possible, of course. But I think we've all learned through the years now in this business that the more relevant you can keep it, the more likely people are to actually, be more proactive. Mm-hmm.
Can we build kind of pathways so we can assign training to someone but put it in a particular order?
Absolutely. Yep. So let's actually talk about that. So that was the catalogue. So that's the part where you go in and kind of self-assign. Now, obviously, when we approach compliance, or like you say, maybe a more steered version of learning, so you say like a journey more, you can definitely package learning according to what you need. So, for example, we could take the management training again. We could say that, look, in order for you to actually be a good manager by our standards in our company, here's a package of learning that you need to have done, i.e. you're certified a good leader, for example. And then we want you to do that annually as well to keep that sort of knowledge going, and there might be additions every year, maybe new items of learning that you need to include. So there's two ways of packaging learning. One is called curricula and one is called programs. Now, the difference between the two is that a curricula, which you can kind of see actually on here, that this particular course is actually a part of something bigger. This is a part of a curricula, which is a collection of learning items from the system, bundled together. And once you've done all the learning within this particular bundle, then you get an overall pass mark or a completed status for your package of leadership learning. So your certified learning professional, leader, good leader. Compliance, obviously, very, very much product as well, or health and safety, other areas that this should be used in. Curricula, what's special about curricula is that you can put all these retraining rules to it. So that's specifically what curriculas are made for. So it's a package of different learnings, and you say that, okay, so once Mark assigned this package to himself, the clock started to tick, if you like, because the LMS admin has set up a rule where it says, okay, so as soon as Mark has completed all of the learning within this package, he will get a completed status for the package. And as soon as he's got that status, we start counting down 1 year or 365 days. And when that date hits, this will actually revert back to an incomplete status. And obviously all the notifications from the system will tell Mark in good time that he needs to do this again because it's been a year now and we want you to sort of recertify yourself in this package of learning. And again, it's all automated. It's something that the rule you set up at the beginning as an admin, and then there is no more sort of manual tracking of if people need to retrain or not. The system will chase that for you. So Mark has to go in again and do the package again, get a new completed status, and the new annual clock will start ticking from that date. So you can go on it. It doesn't have to be annual. You set that up completely freehand. It can be, you know, every 5 years. It can be every week. It doesn't matter. It's up to the admin to decide that frequency. The other way of retraining, so this is obviously ticking down a period of time from the initial completion stage. The other way is to say that, you know, by 1st of April every year, people need to be compliant with something. So you can set like a more calendar date deadline. And it doesn't really matter when you started or finished your training, as long as by 1st of April you are done. That's the other way of controlling it, depending on how you sort of work with that, or both. You can do both. So that's your curricula. Now the other way of bundling learning is a program. So I'm going to pop into this new hire onboarding program to show you the difference. So if I just pop into the overview first. So now you've got here a new onboarding program. So a program is a more informal way. There are no retraining rules or anything here. It's a more of an informal way of just packaging learning into a topic or into a story or journey. New hire onboarding is a really good one because you can have information, links, things. This page you build up, it's as easy as it looks. It's just, you know, import my pictures and put my text and create links. It's like any little word processing app. You can include YouTube videos, just embed a code in here, and so on and so forth. Really easy to do, can look really, really appealing. If I pop into agenda, so you can see here that if I just minimize this, so this doesn't have to be a number of items that you have to complete. This can be set in time, like a scheduled thing that happens over a period of time. And also it can include other things than just stuff from within the system. So for example, you can divide it into a number of days. So you have your first 30 days, and in here, you know, I can free text create, just, you know, go and have your badge created. And once you're done, just come in and just click it yourself that you've done it. Just, you know, it's not actually controlled by anyone else. It's up to you. You can also have, of course, you can have learning items in here, which makes sense. You might want to put, you know, your code of conduct and things like fire safety in here for them to complete, which you can obviously track. You can have links to things, maybe watch this video, you know, which is outside the system. It doesn't have to be a tracked learning thing. It can be anything you want the person to do. I mean, you could even just put something like, you know, spend the day with the finance team, and once you've done that, just come in and mark it complete. So a program is just, it's an ordering of things, but not necessarily just consisting of system items. It can be a lot more informal than that. And once you've done all of this, of course, you get, you can see I've only done 10% here. Mark is sort of on his way to complete this. And once you've done 100%, you will get the complete status in this, but that complete status is permanent. So it's not like the curricula that it will revert to incomplete or anything. Once you've done the program, you've done the program. It's like just a piece of learning in its own right, just consisting of a lot of different learning items. There are more ways of putting learning in sequence as well. You know, there's more options, but basically you can also force people to do things in a certain order. And actually, going back to the assignment profile, so we only talked about them as in you select an audience and then you assign them accordingly. What you could do as well, you could, instead of selecting an audience, well, you select an audience and you do it by saying everybody who has completed learning item A now gets learning item B assigned. So that's also a way of making learning available depending on what you've done and completed beforehand. So that's another way of assigning learning automatically, only this time it's based on your prior learning completions instead. So you can sequential them like that, or you can say to a learning item that you created, say it's a piece of e-learning, you could say, you can set a prerequisite saying, okay, you have to do item, you know, this item first, and then it will unlock this item for you. So there's more ways than that even, but you can just kind of imagine the options to control how and when people take learning and to do it in a certain order.
Okay.
Whilst we're in here, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It certainly does, yeah.
Lovely. That's what we like to hear. Whilst we're in here, let me show you the collaboration tool. Now, I'm not sure, I don't think we really talked about it on the call, but I just want to show you so you know that that's something you could pursue as well. So Jam is are you familiar with Jam at all?
Yeah, SAP Jam.
You are?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. So then you kind of know what it is. So it's the sort of collaboration tool. And in this case, I just want to show you that it is possible to connect them to learning pieces. So for example, this new hire onboarding program is a really good way. So you can imagine if Mark is just a new member of the team and he's just come in, he can actually pop in here. This space is specifically created for new hires, obviously, and connected to this specific program. So so once he gets this learning piece assigned to him, probably automatically, because he's got a hire date in the system, so he'll get this learning piece anyway, he has an opportunity to come in here and actually meet people and be a part of the chats and, you know, see pictures of people and just have that sort of insight even before he maybe comes in for his first day. So it's a very familiar kind of social look and feel, like your LinkedIn, I suppose. There can be lots of members here, his own peers, maybe his manager, maybe some other peripheral people. And obviously, I'm not going to spend too much time here because it's a sort of an add-on thing. But you could upload content for them to read. There's forums, there's events coming up, you know, knowledge base. So he could have a little presentation of himself and meet and greet people. So this kind of social collaboration is obviously something that people would recognize from their private lives, and it's quite a natural way of engaging people nowadays, especially your millennials, as we love the term. So that's something they can do as well. But let me pop back in here, then let me pop back into my learning here.
The other thing I'm really interested in is one of the sort of requests we often have is people from outside learning will come to us and say, I want to build my own module and have it hosted on the LMS. And you're pointing them at Articulate or something. But yeah, it's really difficult to host. Has this got any kind of like build and publish tools with it? You know, if I just want to record myself on a PowerPoint and then just stick it on my little community for such and such engineers, can it deal with that?
So what you could do, so there's a bit of a line there. So the LMS is not a content creation tool as such, so you can't build your proper SCORM content or anything like that. You can do a number of things, even as just a basic user. So we're talking about Mark here as just his own sort of employee. There's something called quick guides. So I'm just clicking into my quick guides. So if it's a matter of pictures, you can create a step-by-step guide. So I'll just pop in here. Here's something that he's built. How to clear your cache in Google Chrome, for example. And you can add screenshots and a bit of information, like how you do it. So you can add steps, really easy. Just add step, add your picture, and then you can publish it. So that if I pop back into my learning here, this is something that Mark can then share and publish to his peers. So people can go in under quick guides. Obviously, we'll just say quick guides and look at that. So you enable user-generated content, as it's called. So that's one way, but that's obviously very basic screenshots and text, and text, which actually can be really, really useful. You can obviously record videos, but you'd have to do that obviously outside the LMS. As long as you've got a recording or any piece of information like a PDF or a Word document or anything like that, you can bring that in as an admin and just create it as an item in the LMS. So you just put the sort of packaging around it, and you can deliver it like any other training, and you can track it like any other training. If I just come down here, I think I've got something in here. Okay, I don't have it at the moment. But basically any piece of media that you created outside of the LMS, you can bring in and package it as learning and deliver it as any piece of learning. There are several ways to complete an item. So obviously, if it's a quiz, you have to pass it, then you complete it. But if it's a video, for example, you could set the rules to say, look, as soon as people have launched the video, then we consider this to be passed. Or you can add an AICC wrapper, as it's called, which is like a banner to say that, you know, I agree with this content. So for example, your PDF or Word document, you can wrap it in this banner rule and deliver it as training. So when people open up the document, they will have a little banner with 2 buttons saying agree or disagree, or whatever you want them to say. Obviously, accept whatever the document contains. And as soon as they click on accept, then that will complete the item, and you can track it in the system that people are ready. You can also report on how long the item was open for, so you can get a hint of if they're actually ready or not. So there's different ways of tracking any kind of media files you can bring into the system and package up like learning and deliver like any learning item. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. It's certainly a lot better than we've got now, put it that way. Even though it's not perfect, it's better than we've got now.
I mean, I'm sure if you can come up with like a specific example, I'm more than happy to you know, after this call, obviously, to come back and show you what that could look like more specifically. Not a problem. Right, links tile on the side. You can include any links you like there. This is just a selection of sort of standard links. Even the user, so we're still looking at Mark, we're still in this first tab. So even as a user, he can run some reports on himself and some other options and things in here. If I scroll downwards a little bit here, we come to my learning history tiles. So obviously stuff that I've completed. I can pop in there, reprint my certificates and so on, and just view when I completed things. My curricula, so obviously curricula, because it's sort of compliance and it's probably quite important to keep track of where you are with that. You do have a curricula tile, if you like, to show you that, you know, a pie chart of where you're at with things. Obviously, it's only got 2 curricula, one is overdue and one is due later, meaning it hasn't really got a deadline as such, so always far, far away. So a dashboard, I could move this, I can move all of these around, by the way. I can move this further up if that's a tile that I would like to view often. Recommendations, so we kind of touched upon them when we looked in the catalogue, that they come up quite high up. So obviously these are things that you can recommend to each other. So if I open just a drop down on just any piece of learning, I have an option to recommend. I have an option to assign to others, but I only have that because I'm a manager. So that's something that's been added. Not everybody can just assign learning to each other. That will become chaotic quite quickly. But in this case, Mark can do that as well. Recommend, it's literally select the user, send them a message, and send it away. So if I flip this one, you can see that this is Victor, so a colleague of mine probably, just left me a little message saying, hey, we talked about this, you know, the other day, and it's a piece of learning, and I can click in here, I can take that learning. So Victor has recommended this for me, and here's another one from Jamie, obviously another colleague, and then obviously the learning team can do this as well. So let's draw our attention back to the assignment profiles. Again, another automation option is to say, rather than assign this piece of learning to the audience that I have filtered out, recommend it. So it will pop in here instead. So it's like a softer way of delivering learning. You're not forcing them to do it. You're not putting it onto their to-do list, but you're not just leaving it in the catalogue. It's kind of like a middle way to make people observe this, and then, you know, I really think this is really good for you to do from a learning team perspective. So from an admin perspective, you can recommend learning in bulk, if you like. So that's a really great way to, again, encourage that social interaction, so people, you know, take a bit of responsibility to actually encourage learning to each other. So it's not, again, just coming from upstairs. And we've got the featured tile again. I've only got one little thing here, but featured, obviously the admin has featured this course, so it gets a bit of extra show time. So that's the page where it's my learning as an employee. This is Mark's own page. So let me just quickly pop into what the manager view looks like. I'm not at all going to spend much time on this. Yep.
I think the one we probably want to look at is how we add a course, and just because I'm conscious of time, we've got sort of 10 minutes or so. Could you sort of show us how? Yeah.
What training looks like from an organisational point of view. So when the learning administrator is on the system, kind of how many courses are being run, who's booked on what, completion rates, the kind of overall thing rather than a manager view. That's what I'd be
okay. So the admin side is obviously quite big and very powerful. It really, in my experience, if I demo it like this over the phone, you know, for 10 minutes, it just wouldn't make any sense. And I'm sure Sandeep would agree with that as well. It just needs its own 2-hour demo, to be honest. I think the way that we tend to demo is to show you the user side and kind of just talk about how things have ended up here. Because the admin side, it is what it is. You import something, you select your rules and you deliver it. I think it's more of training. If we're going to go in there and look around, it would take me a lot more than 10 minutes to make sense of it to you. I don't have a problem showing it. It's not a secret. I'm not trying to hide anything, but I just think it's going to be more confusing than effective to go into the admin side of things. If you really want to see it, let's set up something to actually look at it separately, because it would make so much more sense, and I'm more than happy to do that as a part of an admin demo, really.
Totally different question, Frank, here. How is your experience as a consulting company to move historical data from SAP LSO to SuccessFactors?
So,
I can
oh, sorry. Okay, go.
I was saying that I think we've migrated data from a very wide variety of systems, including LSO as well. In the past, for a very, I guess, kind of for all organizations. I think a lot of the organizations that you saw earlier, all of them have had learning history migration of some sort involved. And I think, just to use an example as well, 2 years ago with one of those implementations, there were 32 million learning history records that were migrated in a period of about 4 days. So obviously that was completely at one end of the scale as well. And we've had examples of kind of migrating it from LSO as well, so that's not really a problem either. SuccessFactors provides standard import tools, where essentially we need to get the data from your source system into the relevant format, and then we are able to import them quite easily into the platform. And also on the admin side, I completely kind of echo what Alice has said around admin. I think Alice, in fact, actually, Alice, if you want to just go onto the admin side, just on the admin homepage, while I just talk through it. So I think everyone believes there is an admin side. Everyone knows that for sure. But on the admin side, I think for an initial demonstration, or I guess kind of the first demonstration, as Alice has said, I think the system is an extremely powerful system, which means that there is a lot on the admin side. And I think going in without any sort of a very specific use case or scenario, it can then essentially, if you're just clicking around without any sort of a specific scenario, then it can look a little bit kind of all over the place. So what I would suggest is that I think we, I guess kind of as a further action, perhaps I think we may want to, now that you've seen the system a little bit, it may be worth putting together a few scenarios if you like, and essentially I think we can perhaps go through those in the admin side at a later point, rather than essentially kind of be clicking around there at this point.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. So let me just quickly go through. There's a couple of things I want to mention in you know, specifically. I think will be really useful to you based on the conversation we had. So I'm just in my employees. So Mark is obviously looking at his team, which is represented on this side. I've selected the Rashana here, so I can see her to-do list. So this is just a direct representation of what she would see on her My Learning page. So I can have an overview of what she's got on there and what she's doing. I have a little warning here to say that there's something overdue, probably something I need to look into as a manager. I can open this little card. And I can do a number of things. Obviously, what I can do here is down to roles, and it can be changed. But I can also send her a message to say, look, you know, you've got something overdue. So it's like a quick little action card. And I can obviously cloud it. And they don't have to be my direct reports. They can be any matrix or delegated or whatever people I've got access to through my manager settings. We can see a reaction survey here. So I haven't even mentioned surveys. Evaluations or surveys, whichever you want to call them, is again something you can set up automatically. You have several layers of those, so you can have, for example, as soon as you've completed something, please send them this survey. So that it's a selection of in drop downs of surveys you've created, so that you can get that information back as well. You know, how did people like the piece of learning? But you can also set a second level of evaluation to be sent a time after the learning's been taken, so say maybe a few months later, and it can be sent to the user and also the manager to say, you know, now that you've had a few months after that piece of learning, do you feel, you know, that it's helped at all? So that's your service. Again, it's automated, so you don't have to chase those. You can make them a part of the completion status, which means that actually, until you've also done the evaluation, you won't get a complete status. So it's a way of maybe forcing people to take those surveys, but you obviously don't have to do that at all. The other one is approvals. So obviously, as a manager, I'm probably a part of some sort of approval chain, or not, but most likely I am. So, you know, for any piece of learning, you can add an approval chain, and that approval chain can look very different. So you can add people, you can build your own approval chain. So if it's just the manager, then obviously whoever is set as the manager in that HR feed for that user will get that. So you don't have to name people. Obviously, you just put the manager, and the system will know who that is. Or you can put people. So it depends. You can have several approvals, several instances of approvals. Maybe you need your HR to approve something, or your finance department approve something. So you can build those approval chains up. You can approve from a pool as well. So you can say, as long as 2 people out of these 6 have approved, then it's approved. So there's lots of ways of approving things. Let me actually not spend too much time in here. So that's your approvals. You can have them for either assigning learning, so you're taking learning, or registering into a piece of face-to-face learning. You could also have it for withdrawals. So you might actually want to, especially if the training costs you money to organise, you don't want people to just withdraw last minute. So you can actually have approvals for withdrawals as well. Just as a last little piece, is the trainer interface. So this is obviously Mark being an instructor, so he's actually giving classes in some topics. It can be external people as well, so let's not forget sometimes you get training from outside. You could create users in your system that actually only have this, so it's like a very limited trainer access actually for them to come in and do stuff. I see my scheduled classes that are coming up, something that I've got 8 people on here already. That's happening 31st of July, so I can go in here and I can look at the class list and I can message people, maybe send them some documents and things. So you can leave a lot of tasks to the actual instructor rather than that always being the learning admin doing all of this. If I pop into past classes, that's probably the place to show. So these will be something that's happened. This happened a while ago, but it could have been just a class that finished just now, because all of this is available on mobile devices, so they could sit there, everybody's left the classroom, and the instructor can actually sit there and you know, mark attendance, pass people or fail them, mark no-shows, which could be really useful to know people didn't show up, especially again if you're paying for your training. So if I pop in here, for example, I can do all sorts of things here. I can look at my users. I could add users, so you can have people coming in on the fly. You know, you don't have to call the admin to say, oh, can you add? You can just do it from here if there's space. You can upload documents and so on. And you can select people, record completions. You know, you pass people. You can give a little, you know, how many hours were they there? Maybe you've got credit hours. This form can look different. It's sort of including everything. You can give them a status. So yeah, they attended. You can leave a comment and submit it, and you know, you might be an external venue, but you can submit it from here. The admin will instantly get it. They can do whatever they need, and you can also push out evaluations manually. So you know, maybe there's admin stuff that needs to happen after you as an instructor have submitted these things, but you don't have to wait for that closure sort of bit that the admin may need to do. You can just push the evaluations out as an instructor, so that you know you get that fresh feedback rather than maybe waiting 2 weeks until the admin's done with their stuff. All of this is controlled by roles. They don't have to have access to this much of things, but that's what they could do from here. It makes a lot of sense, especially as it is available on your iPads and things. So that's, I think, concludes sort of an overview. There's so much more to tell, but let's stop there and see if you've got any questions at this point.
I mean, from my perspective, it's like, you know, it's obviously a generation ahead of what we've got currently. So everything you've showed us would be useful. Literally nothing you've showed us would not be a step forward to what we've got now. So no, it's been extremely useful from our point of view.
That's good. I think reporting is the other one we didn't mention. There's 130 standard reports in the system. You can basically, if it's a field in the system, you can report on it, you know, statuses, times, you know, how many people took learning. You can use those analytics to you know, to plan your training and see what worked and what didn't work. And so there's lots and lots of basic, well, I say basic standard reporting. So you'd be hard pressed to develop custom reports. It still happens, but basically those 130 reports definitely cover your reporting needs to a large extent.
Okay.
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 Everybody seems happy from this end. Yeah, it would be, I think it would be useful to do the admin side. Perhaps Alice, we could get in touch next week perhaps and talk about if it would be possible to set something up to see that.
Sure.
Liam, what may be helpful is, I think, if you start to document some of your kind of, I guess, key admin scenarios that you would like us to kind of demonstrate, then that may be helpful as well in making sure that it's more targeted and more appropriate to what you would be doing in the system.
Okay, yeah, I'll speak to the team here and see what we can come up with. Yeah.
So,
but yeah, that was great. Thank you all very much for your time and for the demo.
Thank you. I mean, we'll do the recording. We'll render it properly, and then let's see how we can best deliver it to you for people that couldn't attend.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
have a nice weekend. Cheers.
You
Bye-bye.
too, guys. Bye-bye. Bye.